In this video, we'll be taking a look at 5 NHL games happening on December 8th, 2025, and providing you with free team picks and total picks for each one of those games, so 10 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released, so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these 5 NHL games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start, if you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. Tampa Bay Lightning versus Toronto Maple Leafs. The Toronto Maple Leafs host the Tampa Bay Lightning on Monday night to get the week started, and it feels a bit like a mash unit matchup already. Both benches are dealing with injuries, and that is hanging over everything here. Tampa just played on Saturday without starting goalie Andrei Vasilevskiy, star forwards Nikita Kucherov and Braden Point, and shutdown defenseman Ryan McDonough, and that game ended in a 2-0 loss where they struggled to generate much of anything. On the other side, the Leafs are still missing both of their top 2 goalies, along with 2 key shutdown defensemen in Brandon Carlo and Chris Tanev. It is still fuzzy who will be back in the lineup on Monday, but one big plus for Toronto is that their forward group is intact and has not been picked apart yet. Lately, the Leafs have at least shown some signs of life. They have won 4 of their last 6 games and look a bit more connected, especially in the offensive zone. They remain one of the better attacking teams in hockey, averaging 3.39 goals per game, and when they are rolling, they can string together pressure shifts that feel like a power play even at 5-on-5. Honestly, if they can just tighten up their structure in front of whoever is in net, they should keep stacking wins and calm some nerves in that market. The Lightning have gone from fish grease hot to losing 3 straight, and the common thread lately is that they cannot find the back of the net with any consistency. That kind of cold streak happens even to good teams, but it matters here when you are walking into Toronto's building. The Leafs have played their sharpest hockey at home, and the fact that they have picked up some road wins too suggests they are slowly figuring some things out instead of just living off home ice energy. Toronto has also taken 7 of the last 9 meetings with Tampa Bay, and those matchups have often turned into offensive showcase nights for the Leafs. I get why some people might still make a case for the Lightning. Tampa's name carries weight, and when that top line is healthy, they can flip a game in a heartbeat. But this upcoming stretch feels huge for Toronto mentally because they have been inconsistent out of the gate and need a stretch of results that says, yes, this group actually has it together. A home game against a Lightning team stuck in a funk looks like a prime chance for a confidence reboot. Toronto has usually shown its best version on home ice, and this spot gives them a chance to show that their recent uptick is more than a blip. If Kucherov sits again on Monday, Tampa may have a hard time keeping pace with Toronto's forwards over 60 minutes, especially if they chase the game early. Even if he suits up, I still lean toward the Leafs handling their business at home because their offensive depth and recent form at Scotiabank Arena give them a small but real edge. As our first pick for this matchup, the Toronto Maple Leafs money line is our full game side pick. Switching over to the scoring outlook, things get a bit more nuanced. The Lightning are averaging 3.14 goals per game and converting on 15.9% of their power play chances. Defensively, they are giving up 2.61 goals per game and killing 86.7% of opposing power plays, which is the kind of penalty kill that can frustrate teams and slow the scoreboard down. Toronto's profile is a bit different. The Maple Leafs are averaging 3.39 goals per game and converting 14.1% of their power play opportunities. On the defensive side, they are allowing 3.29 goals per game and killing 81.5% of the power plays they face. So you have one team that is more solid defensively with a strong penalty kill, and another that leans a bit more offensive but still has room to clean things up in its own zone. Here is the thing, when you look at those averages alone, you might expect a higher scoring game on paper, but context matters more than the raw numbers in a single matchup. Tampa has gone cold offensively over its last 3 games, and that type of stretch often leads to a more careful, patient approach with fewer risky pinches and a focus on getting pucks in deep rather than trading rush chances. At the same time, Toronto knows its biggest improvement area is keeping pucks out of the net, so it would not be surprising to see them prioritize clean exits and smart gaps rather than a full track meet style game. Injury uncertainty plays into the total as well. Key forwards missing on either side tilt games toward lower scores scoring, especially if coaches shorten benches and lean harder on defensively responsible lines. Even if some of those stars return, they might not instantly be in peak rhythm, and special teams execution can dip a bit when units get shuffled. Put it together, and you get a matchup where both teams have reasons to value structure and discipline a bit more than chaos, and where both penalty kills are capable of stiffening at key moments. That kind of script often nudges a game toward a tighter scoreline rather than a goal fest, even when the talent suggests offense is available. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Los Angeles Kings versus Utah Mammoth. The Los Angeles Kings and the Utah Mammoth face off on Monday at the Delta Center in what feels like a get-right spot for at least one frustrated locker room. Both teams have been wobbling over the last couple of weeks, and you can almost picture both coaches staring at the whiteboard a little longer than usual. Utah has been solid overall at home with a 7-3-1 mark, while Los Angeles has quietly put together a 9-2-4 record away from home, which is not easy with all the travel and weird time zone routines players deal with. The Kings did just hammer Chicago, which probably loosens the shoulders a bit, but they have still been held to 2 goals or fewer in 3 of their last 4 games, so this is not exactly a free-flowing offense right now. Utah has taken 2 of its last 3, so there is at least some positive buzz there, but they have also been shut out twice in their last 5, which is the kind of thing that can mess with a team's confidence on the puck. It is one of those matchups where both sides can talk themselves into feeling good and also talk themselves into being worried, which is very on brand for a long NHL season. When you look at this from a side perspective, it is hard to ignore how steady Los Angeles has been on the road. That 9-2-4 record away from home is not just a cute early season stat. It points to a group that travels well, keeps its structure, and does not completely fall apart when the other team gets the last change. Honestly, those are the games where you start to trust a team a bit more against the number, because it shows they are not reliant on home ice adrenaline or a pumped-up crowd to settle in. Utah at home is no pushover, and the 7-3-1 mark in their own building shows they usually give their fans a real shot to leave happy. The problem is that their form has been more hit or miss lately, even in a friendly building, especially coming off a significant road swing where legs can be heavy and decision-making gets a half step slower. Los Angeles, on the other hand, has already shown that even when the offense goes quiet for stretches, they can still stay in games and grind their way through matchups like this. There is also the familiarity angle. Going back to last season, Los Angeles has had the better of this particular matchup, and that kind of track record does matter for players, even if they will never admit it at the podium. When one team has repeatedly handled the other, it can bring a natural comfort for the favorite and a bit of doubt for the underdog, especially once the first big momentum swing hits. Putting it all together, the road consistency, the matchup history, and Utah's more volatile recent form all point toward Los Angeles being more likely to cover here, even in a tricky building. As our first pick for this matchup, the Los Angeles Kings money line is our full game side pick. Utah has averaged 3.03 goals per game and allowed 2.87 against, which on paper looks fairly balanced and not overly wild. Their offensive ceiling is there, but those recent shutouts in 2 of the last 5 games show how quickly their attack can stall when entries get messy or they are forced to the outside too often. Los Angeles comes in at 2.68 goals scored per game and 2.50 allowed, which fits their identity as a team that leans on structure, responsible forwards, and a system that tries to suffocate the middle of the ice. That kind of profile usually nudges things toward tighter scores, more board battles, and fewer rush chances. It is not always pretty, but it is often effective. Special teams also pull in the same direction. Utah is running at 14.6% on the power play and 82.1% on the penalty kill, while Los Angeles sits at 13.8% with the man advantage and 80.7% when down a skater. None of those power play numbers scream high flying. If anything, they suggest that even when penalties do come, you are just as likely to see a clear and a reset as you are a backdoor tap-in. For total bettors, that matters a lot more than it sounds. When you stack the modest offensive averages, the recent scoring droughts on both sides, and the workmanlike special teams together, the most reasonable expectation is a game where chances are earned slowly rather than traded freely. That kind of script naturally leans toward a lower total, with both teams grinding in the neutral zone more than trading odd man rushes. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Buffalo Sabres versus Calgary Flames. The Buffalo Sabres head into Calgary on Monday night to face the Flames at the Scotiabank Saddledome, and both clubs are sitting on exactly 11 wins, which already tells you how thin the margin is here. On the surface it looks even, but the split between home and road is where things start to lean one way. Calgary has been noticeably stronger in their own building, while Buffalo has managed only 2 wins in 12 road games, which is rough no matter how you spin it. Long trips, late-night hotel checks, weird morning skates, it all adds up for a team that has not yet shown it can handle life away from home on a steady basis. Calgary, on the other hand, has been mostly solid in front of their crowd, and that kind of comfort tends to show up in the first period when legs are fresh and nerves are not. Recent form nudges things further in the same direction. The Flames are coming in on back-to-back wins and have taken 4 of their last 5 at home, which is usually a sign that their structure is holding up and their goaltending is giving them a chance almost every night. Buffalo is skating in with 2 straight losses, and this will be their 3rd game in a row on the road, so they are carrying both fatigue and frustration into the matchup. The head-to-head story also leans Calgary. Just a few weeks ago, the Flames went into Buffalo and handled them 6-2, and across the last 2 meetings, they have outscored the Sabres 11-4, which is not a small gap. On top of that, Calgary has not dropped a home game since November 15th, so the building has been a pretty friendly place for them lately. When you pair all of that with the fact that Buffalo's defense has been noticeably softer than Calgary's, you get a picture where the home side is simply more trustworthy in the key moments. It is still hockey, weird bounces happen, but if you are just asking which team is more likely to handle its business more often than not, the lean is clearly toward the Flames here. As our first pick for this matchup, the Calgary Flames money line is our full game side pick. Calgary's offense has been fairly modest, sitting at about 2.33 goals per game, and they are converting on roughly 13.7% of their power play chances. That is not exactly a free-flowing attack, more like a group that has to work hard for every decent look and usually leans on structure rather than pure firepower. Defensively, though, they have been steadier, allowing around 2.87 goals per game while killing off about 83.73% of opposing power plays. That profile points to a team that keeps games reasonably contained, especially when they can control matchups at home. Buffalo shows a very different balance. The Sabres are averaging 2.93 goals per game, and their power play sits near 18.1%, so their scoring ceiling is a bit higher when things click. At the same time, they are giving up about 3.43 goals per game, and while their penalty kill has been strong at roughly 87.23%, that goals against number tells you plenty about the pressure they face in their own zone. It is a bit of a trade-off, more offense paired with more exposure the other way. Here is the thing, when you combine a lower output Calgary attack with a sturdier defensive structure, then put that against a Buffalo team that can score but has to grind for clean entries and shots on the road, you often get a game that leans tighter rather than wild. Calgary will be happy to slow this down, roll 4 lines, and let their defensive edge and goaltending do the heavy lifting, while Buffalo's road issues suggest their offense may not fully show up for 60 minutes. So while both teams have enough talent to pop a crooked number on a good night, the overall mix points more toward a controlled, lower-scoring kind of contest where chances are there but not endless. In that sort of script, the under on the projected total makes more sense than expecting a goal fest. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Detroit Red Wings versus Vancouver Canucks. The Detroit Red Wings and Vancouver Canucks meet Monday at Rogers Arena, and it has that messy, slightly chaotic feel you get from 2 teams still trying to figure themselves out. Vancouver finally snapped their skid with a win over Minnesota on Saturday, but the last couple of weeks have not exactly inspired confidence. Their home mark sits at 4-8-1, which kind of tells the story, and even when they start well, they have had a habit of fading as games stretch into the third. Detroit has not been spotless either, but their profile on the road is at least a bit steadier, with a 6-5-2 record away from home. They are 2-0-2 in their last 4, so they are picking up points, even while making life harder than it needs to be with sloppy defensive shifts and coverage breakdowns. Honestly, it feels like watching a team juggling knives, but getting away with it more often than not. The key detail, though, is that Vancouver might not be the right opponent to punish those mistakes. Vancouver has scored 2 goals or fewer in 4 4 of their last 5 games, and you can see the hesitation in their attacking zone play. Pucks die on sticks, shots get passed up, and the crowd gets restless. That does not mean they cannot break out. Hockey is weird, but if one side is more likely to make those loose defensive moments hurt, it is still Detroit with its forward depth and tendency to strike off the rush. So, while both teams have had trouble stacking wins, if you force the issue and ask which group is more likely to handle its flaws better over 60 minutes, I would rather ride with the road team here. As our first pick for this matchup, the Detroit Red Wings money line is our full game side pick. Now, shifting to the total, the picture changes a bit. It is funny because on the surface, Vancouver's recent goal drought might suggest a slower game, but the underlying pattern with these teams points the other way. Detroit's defensive issues have not just been a talking point, they have shown up on the scoreboard, and that has pushed their recent games into some wild territory. The over has cashed in 7 of Detroit's last 8 games, and that is not a coincidence. Loose gaps, risky pinches, and turnovers in bad spots all feed into higher event hockey. Even if their goalie stands on his head for stretches, the sheer volume of chances creates chaos. On the other side, the Canucks have allowed 4 or more goals in 5 of their last 9 outings, which tells you that their own structure has not exactly been airtight either. It is like 2 leaky faucets facing off. Sooner or later the sink fills up. Head-to-head, the trend is pointed in the same direction. 4 of the last 6 meetings between these two have seen 7 or more goals, which suggests that when they share the ice, the tempo tends to open up and the mistakes get magnified. Special teams can tilt things in a hurry in matchups like this, and with both clubs capable of streaky stretches on the power play or giving up odd-man rushes after failed entries, you can easily get that one extra goal that pushes a total over the number. So, even acknowledging Vancouver's recent trouble finding the net, the mix of Detroit's defensive looseness, Vancouver's own goals against issues, and the history between these teams still nudges me toward expecting a game with some genuine scoring fireworks rather than a grindy 2-1 snoozer. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Minnesota Wild versus Seattle Kraken. Minnesota and Seattle meet on Monday night in Seattle, and it is one of those Western Conference games that feels a little heavier than the standings suggest. Both teams are wobbling a bit, both are irritated with themselves, and both are trying to steady the ship on a long regular season grind. Minnesota has been the steadier group overall, even if you would not guess that from their recent stretch. They have dropped 3 of their last 4, are stuck on a 1-3 skid, and this is their 4th straight road game, which can wear on legs and focus. Back-to-back road losses start to get inside a room a little, especially when the offense is sputtering and everyone is gripping the stick a bit too tight. Seattle is not in a better mood. The Kraken are staring at 5 straight defeats, with 3 of those losses coming in their own building, and that is never fun in front of your home crowd. Their offense has been one of the weakest in the league, chances dry up for long stretches, and their penalty kill has been a mess, which is a brutal combination when games are tight. When your kill cannot get off the ice, every minor call feels like a small crisis. The goaltending situation does not really calm things down either. Joey Daccord has had a rough run lately, and there is a real chance Seattle turns back to Philip Grubauer for this one. On paper, his November numbers look solid, with a goals against around 2.14 and a save percentage in the low 19s across 3 starts and 1 relief outing. In reality, that ugly relief appearance against Edmonton is still fresh in everyone's mind, and that kind of performance tends to stick with both fans and coaches. What really jumps out is how little trust Seattle seems to have in Grubauer right now. If the coaching staff is hesitant, it is hard for a bettor to feel much more confident. Even if Daccord gets the crease again, you are still dealing with a team that struggles to score, struggles on the kill, and is trying to fix things on the fly. Minnesota's offense is hardly rolling, but their defensive structure is generally more reliable, and whichever goalie gets the nod for the Wild is likely to give them a reasonable shot to manage this matchup. It is not a glamorous edge, but it is still an edge. So when you look at a short price on a road favorite in this sort of spot, with one side offering a bit more stability at 5-on-5 and in net, Minnesota comes out as the slightly more trustworthy team to back for the full game side. As our first pick for this matchup, the Minnesota Wild money line is our full game side pick. Seattle, on the other hand, skates into this one just trying to stop the bleeding. They have surrendered 17 goals across their last 3 games, which is the kind of number that makes every defensive meeting feel a little tense. Even with that recent leak, Minnesota has been mildly better than break-even away from home at 7 wins, 6 losses, and 1 overtime or shootout loss, so both teams know how to handle travel at a basic level. Minnesota's bigger issue right now is finishing. They have dropped 3 of their last 4, and they have been stuck at 2 or fewer goals in regulation in 5 straight games, which is exactly the kind of trend that makes totals better sit up. When both benches are frustrated with their production, you tend to see simpler, safer tactical choices, more chips off the glass, and fewer desperate stretch plays. Coaches talk a lot about tightening up after losing streaks, and that usually shows up in the shot quality more than the shot volume. There is a small contradiction hidden here, because Seattle has just allowed that 17-goal burst across 3 outings, which sounds like a track meet. But that can happen even to teams that like to lean on structure when they hit a bad patch or run into a couple of bad matchups. The core identity of both sides still leans toward responsible, defense-first hockey, and when 2 careful teams are also having trouble scoring, games can slow down in a hurry. Given the recent scoring struggles from Minnesota, Seattle's weak and inconsistent offense, and the defensive focus both teams lean on when they are under pressure, this shapes up as a spot where a lower-scoring game is more likely than not, especially over a full 60 minutes rather than a wild special teams battle. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed, subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.